Hey guys, this is another video talking about deep Nulsec anomaly farming in Eve. It's a really good way to make a lot of money in Eve Echoes, and I think it will continue to be that way for the foreseeable future, mainly because the bounties on tier 9 and tier 10 anomalies are so good, and the fact that in a missile boat with the right skills and the right setup, fittings, etc., you can actually clear these with relative ease while taking very little damage yourself. Now, if you like this content, please drop me a like and a comment. A comment absolutely helps. Honestly, it's one of the most important things that you can do. And also, if you fancy it, drop me a subscribe because I will be producing more Eve Echoes content. I really appreciate all the support I get over all of the games that I've covered in my YouTube career, and the continued support is really nice. Something that I want to address before we go on, though, is that if you're a regular Eve Echoes content consumer on YouTube, you'll know that a very good Eve Echoes content creator called Captain Benzie, who's created guides for multiple things. I mean, if you want to know something about Eve Echoes, Captain Benzie has created a guide on it. Recently called me out saying that he thought that I was repackaging his content for my own, and I think he was specifically talking about a mining video where we essentially covered the same topics, but I was talking about mining spodumene and Nulsec and my venture setup, as well as looking at an ore spreadsheet that I'd created from scratch to help me work out how much I was making on every mining trip. This is something that made me very angry when I initially saw it, because I have never ripped off anyone's content intentionally. I felt that when I looked at his video that had the similar setup, it was just a logical way of talking about mining. You choose your ship, you fit your ship, you choose where you're going to mine, you choose your ore, then you choose what to do with that ore. That's just the logical, chronological way to talk about mining. And mining is a very simple and widely accessible thing, and it's very easy to learn in Eve Echoes. You really don't even need a tutorial to learn. The biggest things that you can learn from mining is learning about what type of ores are the best to farm, and maybe what ship setups that you want. Because to be completely honest with you, it's not that hard to mine. I figured it out very quickly. It was also what I put all of my skills in at the start. But this is something that's happened with me and Benzie before. We both used to cover a game called Command & Conquer Rivals. I might even have some subs that still play that game. And we had, although I created myself over 100 videos of Command & Conquer Rivals, and I'm sure Benzie created close to that. We had some content that overlapped because we both create educational content. That is the primary aim of our channels, is to create educational content. So we're going to have some overlap. And Benzie felt that I'd done the same in CNC Rivals, which frankly wasn't the case. I like to create my own content. I just kind of do it as I want. And I don't really pay heed to anybody else that's created content in the same space, because if I have to go through every YouTube channel that exists and check that they haven't created the same content that I want to create, then I'm just never going to be able to create anything that I want. So I really just go about creating what I want, and if it is the same or is similar to what someone else has created, then so be it. That is what it is. The mining guide, I felt that was just a chronological and logical way to talk about mining. I felt like I made it different enough with my spreadsheet as well. I felt like when I actually went and looked through Benzie's entire video, we actually covered fairly different things. Although mining itself is very limited to what you can actually talk about, so I felt that there was obviously going to be some crossover there. And mining was just the first thing that I started doing in Eve. It was the first thing that I was most comfortable with in terms of making money. I didn't really feel comfortable doing low-level encounters, because when you first get into the game, actually mining is the quickest way to speed up to getting a few million ISK per hour. Then, once you get to higher tech level ships and you can take on higher level anomalies and higher level story missions, it actually transitions to being a more PvE orientated approach. Unless you can move up to strip mining, which is obviously very lucrative, but also you need a lot of money to invest to get there. So it's like a step ladder, right? So I just started doing mining to begin with. Me and Benzie have settled it privately. I have nothing bad to say about him. He's a fantastic content creator. You should go and subscribe to him. What this has alerted me to, though, is that I should definitely be more mindful, especially of the content creators that I'm aware of, in if I am covering a piece of content that has already been covered by them, I should try and at least link that video in the description to make sure that there is a wide selection of information available. I am not going to not cover stuff that Benzie has already covered, because I just wouldn't be able to cover anything. Benzie has covered a lot of topics, But I will make sure in the future that I absolutely see the way he's done it and try and do it differently or bring my own twist to it. That is how I'm going to resolve the situation. But to be honest with you, the mining video was just essentially coincidence. I just felt that that was the chronological way to deal with mining, and then I added my spreadsheet in and talked about it that way. It just so happened that that is the way that a lot of other content creators, including Sovereign TV, and I think most people would logically look at dealing with a mining video. So yeah, that's what I wanted to address. There's no drama about it. I have no issue with Benzie. I don't want you to brigade his channel. In fact, I want you to go sub to his channel because I think he's fantastic. And 2020 will move on from here. I'll just make sure that I'm a bit more aware of if Benzie has created something, I make sure that I link it because he does create good informational content. So let's take a look at how much I've actually earned. I would say in the period between 8:49 this morning and 9:50 this morning, I made about 8 million in bounties alone, and then I did a couple more before heading back. I took a quick break in between, and I made around 10 million in total on my trip in bounty rewards alone. Plus, I hauled all of this Mark 7 loot back, including 31 level 9 Minmatar ship debris pieces, which with what I'm training right now, which is definitely very important, a skill that you're going to want to train if you are thinking of doing PvE ratting as a primary source of income, scrap metal processing, which is going to increase the amount I can get from processing Minmatar ship debris or any ship debris of that kind, if you ask me. So, taking a look at all of this, I can sell this entire lot I can probably sell for around 10 million as well. So I've made about 20 million in a 2-hour trip, which is going to allow me to put more towards getting up to a battle cruiser. A Drake is what I'm aiming for. I'm going to transition from a Caracal to a Caracal Navy issue to a Drake, and then I'm going to look towards going to a Retriever so I can do a tutorial on strip mining as well. So I can sell all of this, which I'm going to do before moving on to my next location, which I might even head up towards the North Nulsec to see what I can find over there just to have a bit of an exploration. So I'm going to sell all of this on the market, and then I'm going to move on, and I probably will make between 20 and 30 million on that trip just from safely farming Nulsec anomalies. Tier 9 and above is ideal, but Tier 7 and Tier 8 can still make you a tidy profit. But Tier 9 and above are the ones that are going to give you Mark 7 loot. I think Tier 8 still gives you Mark 5, but Tier 9 and Tier 10 definitely give you Mark 7. Taking a look at my skills then, this is important to talk about. Benzie has done a cruiser skill video today. I will link it in the description below. I feel like I do need to talk about the skills that I have used for this though, because it is important when learning how to deal and build up a cruiser. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this view because this is better. Cruising technology. I've got cruiser command and advanced cruiser command up there. I've also got my engine operation up there, but everything else is kind of chilling. I've got some micro warp drive. That was all stuff that I was just doing at the start. I wasn't really paying much attention to what I was investing skills in. Shield operation and advanced shield operation, as well as shield hardening, have been trained on my shield operation side of things, simply because I am a shield tank in a Caracal. When you are at range of about 70 kilometers, you do not need to worry about anything other than really missiles and the very worst, maybe howitzers if you get too close. But shields are very easily maintained at range, and missile boats, they're a good ship to consider using a shield tanking on, and the Caracal is a natural shield tank. Defense upgrade, I've just got the cruiser defense upgrade. I might end up buying the advanced cruiser defense upgrade soon. Engineering, cruiser engineering, of course, and I've also got targeting at 5. Targeting at 5 allows me to lock onto 5 targets, which means I can deal with pesky frigates very quickly and then start to work on the bigger ships. And then I have got my missiles, this is maybe the most important thing. Medium missile operation at 5 and advanced medium missile operation at 5 as well. And that's not entirely necessary, but definitely helps. And medium missile upgrade. Medium missile operation increases the damage, the velocity, and the flight time. What this means is this allows you to increase your damage overall, it increases the speed at which the missiles hit your target, and it also increases the effective range. Flight time is the effective range of the missiles. The medium missile upgrades, which is super important for PvE, you get a damage increase, and then you get an explosion radius decrease. Let's talk about fitting, because that explosion radius I want to keep in your head for just a moment, because it's important to talk about. My fitting is this. I've almost got 400 DPS. I have got no medium rigs right now, but I'll talk about that in a second. 4 Caldari Navy heavy missiles. This gives you the most range, also gives you the biggest blasting power versus cruisers, battle cruisers, and battleships, which will be there in Tier 9 and Tier 10 anomalies. Heavy missiles are slightly worse against frigates and destroyers because their drive signature is lower, and that means your missiles in general do not do as much damage. I think it's to do with the velocity at which those ships travel, as well as the fact that they can get out of the explosion radius more quickly. Then on my low slots, I've got a shield hardener, a good shield booster. Realized I skipped over this really quickly. One of the most important things you can run on your cruiser when you're playing especially a shield tanking cruiser, but also just in general looking to PvE, medium capacitor batteries. Like, the best one that you can get your hands on. They are a get out of jail free card when you're taking damage, and they are very, very good for getting your micro warp drive active in tough situations, giving you massive increase in capacitor power to ensure that you can get through larger waves of PvE, and also they can be a get out of jail free card when someone approaches you in Nulsec in a PvP setting. Medium capacitor battery, buy one. It's so important. And I actually have an afterburner, but I am actually going to swap that out for a micro warp drive, which I'm actually just going to do now. I'm actually going to swap that out for a micro warp drive because micro warp drives are more important. Afterburners are good, but when you're playing a missile boat and if anyone gets close to you, you want to get out of there really bloody quickly. So micro warp drives are the most important. They are going to speed you up massively. Mid slots. The best mid slots that you can go for when you're playing a missile boat is almost certainly stasis Weber fires, because the only thing that's going to threaten you is when someone gets close, and when someone gets close you want to get out of there really quickly, and that's what stasis Weber fire is going to allow you to do. Could put a interruptive warp disruptor on. I probably would never really get into range to use it. That's the only problem when I'm running an interruptive warp disruptor. But stasis Weber fires are more defensive mid-tier options. That's probably what I'm going to kit my Caracal Navy issue out with. So I'm going to whack some stasis Weber fires on there for my next trip out into Nulsec. Let's talk about rigs. I'm not running any mechanical rigs, but I am running power grid rigs. And I'm running 3 pretty important power grid rigs. What I've got is Warhead Califaction Catalyst, which increases the flat damage, which is obviously fantastic. When you're running heavy missiles especially, it increases their flat damage, which is massive. And then I'm running 2 times Warhead Rigor Catalyst. This decreases the explosion radius of my heavy missiles, making them better versus frigates and cruisers. Frigates and destroyers. There are 2 really important factors when you're calculating missile damage: explosion velocity and explosion radius. Explosion radius generally is the best for increasing missile DPS versus most targets. You don't need to worry about too small of a radius versus battle cruisers and cruisers, because realistically your missile is going to hit them anyway. So this does not reduce the damage that you deal to the bigger ships. It doesn't affect it as much, but this does increase the damage that you deal to the smaller ships like frigates and destroyers, which is really important when you're running heavy missiles, which are generally quite bad against those kind of targets. So Warhead Regal Catalysts, I think, are some of the most important attachments if you want to go for a holistic PvE approach when running a missile boat. Alright, where to select when you're going into Nulsec space? Well, literally it's easy as clicking on New Eden and having a look at any of those Nulsec environments. Now, if you want to farm tier 9 and tier 10 anomalies, you need to find minus 0.7 and below. So, let's just say you want to go to, I don't know, let's say Tribute region map. I can see a literal 0.7 there. That's my starting point. I jump to that system. What's that? 26 jumps. Cool. 26 jumps to that system. I make that move, and I look at how many people are in the local chat when I get there. If it's 1, I start farming anomalies there and then. That's what I do. That's how you do it. Just find unpopulated, very low sec null space and get to work. The core to this issue, the core to anything when you're doing a null sec is you just want to avoid people. If you're not confident PvPing, and in a missile boat, I would, especially if I'm not running assault missiles, I'm not confident PvPing, get in there and find low population nullsec space and just see what you can do. 76.41 kilometers. Like, I can fire from 76 kilometers away. So I have no issues with range. I don't need to add any more range to what I've got right now. So I'm almost running 400 DPS on my Caracal Navy issue. I'm really beefy, very easily durable. I'm going to show you what I do in these anomalies now, because I've showed you before, but I've kind of changed the way that I do it a little bit. And this is something that I'm really passionate about in terms of money making. I think it's one of the best ways to make money in the game right now. So definitely, if you can get your hands on a Caracal at the very least and fit it out in a similar way, you can come into Nulsec space. It's all about choosing an area of Nulsec that is uninhabited. That's basically the number one thing. Like, I'm the only person in this minus 0.7 Nulsec space right now. And when you're playing in Nulsec space, always err on the side of caution. If I see someone come onto local and they don't immediately disappear after about 2 minutes, I boot it, because either they are mining, which is fine, but you can never tell, or they are searching the anomalies and the mining belts for either miners or you. And usually when someone's willing to waltz into Nulsec space by themselves and pirate, they're probably equipped for better for 1v1 combat than you are in something like a Caracal Navy issue. So I would always recommend, if you see someone, you just warp the feck out of there, because most of the time, especially if they get up close and personal to you, add a warp disruptor and a stasis weapon fire, you're going to be kind of screwed in a missile boat, so you need to be very careful. If you're running rapid lights or heavy assaults with much lower range, sometimes you can maybe look for the duel, but at close range, heavies can be slow to fire, and you can be out DPS'd by even drone boats and things, so you need to be very careful when you're playing a missile boat in Nulsec space. So yeah, let's just quickly go through what I do. I kind of want to do, don't want to do a large anomaly because they take forever. Medium anomalies also take a significant amount of time, but it looks like there is only medium and large anomalies available. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to warp to this medium anomaly here. I like to warp in because the range of my missiles is 76 kilometers. I like to warp in at 70 or 80 kilometers away. It really depends on the angle that you're approaching and where the spawn point is about how this works. It can be very hit or miss, but usually, at minimum, I get at least 50 kilometer distance from the majority of the NPCs, which is good enough. 50 kilometers is good enough. I do like to extend that distance a little bit. I like to remain just out of 80 kilometer range of the spawn point of all of the NPCs. This gives me time to locate the fastest moving targets when they spawn, lock onto them first, and then just set my missiles to pick them off as they head towards me. This looks like I'm going to end up pretty close. Again, yeah, 60 to 50 kilometers. I'm just going to easy lock all of these guys because there is 5 targets here. But I do want to make sure that I'm getting a little bit further away. So what I'm going to do is turn my camera around, double tap, and start to head. I'm going to take out the smallest ones first. That's not quite the best vector. It's difficult when I don't run an engine Nosferatu. I know I activated it at 90 kilometers, but the reason I activated it is it gave me a direct line vector to the spawn point, which allowed me to get the best vector to sort of move away from them from. But that's kind of what I've managed to do here. So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to move a little bit. I'm going to continue to move here. I've got my missile groups set out into 2. I've grouped them into 2 generally because I'll either split them onto smaller ships, and I always want to usually fire 2 missiles at the same time. It's better for controlling cycles to group them sometimes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and extend the distance. I'm even going to pop my afterburner for just a little bit. So I'm going to pop my afterburner for just a little bit to extend the distance between me and the spawn point. My little man is crying, so I'm going to go grab him while this happens. But this is the beauty of running a missile boat at this range. It's actually pretty safe to kind of take your eye off the ball. The only thing that isn't safe is you always want to keep your eye on local, because if that number goes up to 2, then you do have to be very switched on and very aware. So what I'm doing, I think I've probably covered enough distance. I'm just going to press pause. I'm going to go grab my little baby. Okay, cool. Yeah, this is spaceship game, isn't it? So yeah, this is basically what I do. I'm not going to go through the whole anomaly with you, but what I would recommend is if you're going to a large... Oh, there we were. Actually, someone's turned up to local. This could be a moment where I have to kind of show you what I mean. I'm going to keep an eye on local. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to turn off Rex, and I'm actually going to continue to move away from the anomaly. Maybe not with... It's probably a little bit overkill to do it with the afterburner. I'm going to lock on to the smaller ships first, because they are usually the ones that separate from the pack much more quickly. The Covert Ops is also pretty good at doing that. You can see the Covert Ops is jumping up pretty quickly. I need to be very careful of who this is and whether they turn up here. If they turn up here, then I need to be a little bit more careful. I'm actually going to stop. I'm 90 kilometers away now. My missiles are never going to reach this far, but that's okay. They will close the distance on me, and that's perfectly all right. In fact, actually, I need to try and take out one of the ones that is coming closest quickest, which is this hound here. So what I'm going to do is keep an eye on this so far. I could even go so far as to turn off some of the frigates, because I'm almost certain this guy is not coming into Nulsec space in a frigate. I just need to be very careful about staying in this location when he's there. I would always recommend, if you are worried about what you're carrying and worried about yourself in a PvP situation, if you see this here, even if it's a miner, you peace out and you just get out. For me, I feel confident that I can escape. I feel like I'm far enough away from the immediate warp vector. A lot of people will warp directly to it without warping at range, because not everybody is a missile boat, and they can never predict that you're going to be a missile boat. So if they warp in and they end up 50 kilometers from me, it's very easy for me to get out of there, because I'm going to be out of the range of their warp disruptors and their stasis weather fires. Yes, baby. So I'm just going to keep an eye. If anybody turns up, and if the icon is white, so if it is a white ship icon with his name next to it, you know that he's warped into your space. And if he warps into an anomaly, it's usually that he's either going to be trying to find them himself or he's looking for a fight. I'm happy to give up the loot in this situation, take as many of the bounties as I can, and back out. But I'm just going to wait it out for the time being. Sometimes they are just passing through. Sometimes they're miners. Sometimes you'll never see from them. It would be very hard for him to warp into this particular anomaly at the range that I am at without predicting that I'm a missile boat. This is where it gets tense. This is where you've got to keep your eyes on. This is where you can't AFK through these anomalies. This is definitely one of the risks of Nulsec. If I was doing this in high sec, which you would never get as good loot or as good bounties, you would never need to worry, because no one's going to attack you in high sec. It's just not how it works. But in Nulsec, everybody is a threat. A miner, even if this guy's here to just mine some asteroids fields, he's a threat. The fact that he's hanging around, either to me, tells me that he's a miner, or he's searching anomaly sites or mining belts for prey. There are two types of pirates that you're going to get in Nulsec. First type of pirate looks for miners. They don't want to take the PvP fights, they're looking for the easy prey that can't fight back. The other type of pirate is the one that's looking for the PvP opportunities, the 1v1, coming into anomalies. And jumping into anomalies is a good way to catch someone off guard, because if you've taken the aggro of all of the anomaly NPCs, then obviously you're going to be taking damage, and you're having to deal with that as well as all of your locking systems being locked up by these guys. And sometimes even the NPCs will apply status effects to you too. I'm risking it here. I'm risking it for a chocolate biscuit, but I think I'm far enough away from the spawn point and far enough away from the warp location that I should be able to get out. A good practice in this scenario actually is to say, like, I need to find something on this side. Right, so I can just say, well, I mean, there isn't much point doing this when I'm stationary. I'm actually kind of essentially already facing my warp location, so I don't really need to align any further than that. Sorry, I'm trying to do this with a baby in my hand. It's quite difficult. Okay, so I've got 5 locks here. Let's wait until one of them jumps in at my range. I'm going to zoom out a little bit here. Zooming out gives me a little bit more perspective. So you may have noticed that I haven't been touched, but I've taken a little bit of shield damage. But what I'm going to do to counteract that is pop my battery, pop my shield booster, and actually now I'm back to 100%. Absolutely no issues. I know, Sweet Pea. I know. Oh, he's jumped out. He's jumped out. Okay, there. Crisis averted. Ah, that was scary, guys. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just cancel those. I don't need them anymore. I've taken almost no damage clearing a tier 10 anomaly with a 75-kilometer range and heavy missiles. It's free real estate. It's free money. You guys should definitely get on this. I have got a hound approaching me very quickly right now, so he must be popping like a afterburner or a micro warp drive or something. I'm going to switch some missiles over to him, like you can see here. Just because he's getting very close to me. I don't expect a hound to take me out, but the closer he gets, he's actually going to start doing damage, so I just need to pop some of my missiles on him. Yeah, and that's how I clear medium, large, and small anomalies in a missile boat, with insane range, taking no damage, and getting free money. It's pretty simple. And so finally, I'm going to show you what I do with the spoils of my loot. After I've come back and made those bounties, I'm going to show you what I do with the spoils of my loot on the market. I'm trading at a place called Nakugad, which is a little bit further away from places like Jita, which means you're in a slightly out of field ITC, which means you can probably get away with charging people more because they're not going to want to jump or pay for shipping fees. So I need to move everything out of my ship to my item hangar. And then my item hangar, I'm just going to do this. This is a really good habit to get into. Just when you get into your item hangar, select all, stack all. It just makes it nice and easy. Right, Mark 7 autocannons. I've got 7 of them. Okay. On average, I mean they are all over the place in terms of cost. Some very 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 cheap ones, but they're at about 60 jumps away. But I could probably feasibly charge 1 million. For each of these. I think that's probably pretty good. Let's have a look at this. View market details. Autocannon. Again, like there is some really cheap ones out in Nulsec space, which are usually pirate baits. This station is selling them at 1,100,000. So I'm gonna sell this at 1 million. I'm gonna undercut. Actually, that's probably selling myself. Let's sell it at 1,050,000. So I'm undercutting, but not by much. Cool. Mark 7 minor. These always sell really well. I've got to wait for the market to update. In less than 1 second, thank you. For some reason the market just refreshes. So, on average, about 1 million. I reckon there's none selling at this station. I can probably very feasibly sell these for 1 million each. So I mean, I'm going to make even more than I thought on this trip. Right, let's view market details on the howitzers. Not many on the market at all. Difficult to say exactly how much they'll sell for, but let's put them on at 850,000, somewhere in the middle of the two. Again, I don't know what the demand for them at this station is like specifically. Medium energy Nosferatu. These are usually, yeah, these are super expensive. I picked up a medium energy Nosferatu. I can sell that very easily for maybe 13, 12 million, something like that. I think I'll go in at 12 million. Nah, let's just go in at 13 million. I have made a boatload of money from this trip. I have made so much money from this trip. That was such a good trip into Nulsec space. We are making upwards of 50 million here potentially, depending on what I can sell the rest of the stuff for. This is so good. Oh, and just to be aware, Captain Benzie did do a market video, which talks a little bit about stuff that you do in the market. I'm actually interested to see what this sells for. About 1 million. Okay, I thought it was going to sell for more than that, but I've got one of those to sell as well. So I'm selling a lot of really good stuff here. Yeah, he's done a market video. I don't necessarily agree with everything that he said in the market video, but it is a good way to get to grasp with the basics. I definitely think Benzie sells himself a bit short, selling at ITCs and trying to undercut the total market value, because you really have to assess how far away the rest of the competition is. And if you're at a fairly popular ITC, which mine has got an average of 60 to 80 people at any one time, so that makes it a moderately popular ITC, you can get away with selling for higher than the average market price if you want to. You just need to make sure you undercut at your specific station. I always recommend that you don't undercut by too much, because otherwise you're going to drive the prices down, because people are going to undercut you as well, so you just need to be a little bit careful. Yeah, so that is how I've been making money. I've been making a lot of money this way, and I've been spending it on ships and spending it on upgrades and so on and so forth, but I think by the end of the day, maybe be looking at 100 million back in the bank, and then I'm going for a Blackbird covert ops, and we are going to hit some pirating in Nulsec. I'm going to be playing a heavy assault missile, or a Blackbird covert ops, and we're going to go warp, so we're going to go cloak, and go find some people in Nulsec space and beat them up. Yeah. Oh, and one last thing before I go. Obviously, I talked a little bit about scrap, metal, reprocessing. I'm training level 4 right now, so I'm not going to do this, but If you train some scrap metal reprocessing up to level 4 or something, you can reprocess ship debris and get lots of really good parts out of them. You're going to get stuff like charred microcircuit, when you look at the market, you can sell one of them for around 10,000 to 8,000 to 10,000 each. Really good money makers, really, really good money makers. This is a very, very, very lucrative way to make money if you can get away with it. And I hope that you guys do. Again, if you like this video, please drop me a comment, a like, and a subscribe. I really appreciate it. And hopefully it's been useful for you. I'll see you very soon.